Yeah.
Okay. This story starts in Judges with Israel. This is a time where Israel is running away from God and coming back to God constantly. And the start of Gideon's story is the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of God. And so God delivered Israel into the Midianites for 7 years. The Midianites took the wheat, they took the animals, and they drove the Israelites into the caves. And the Israelites were hiding. After 7 years of this famine, almost like where they're just taking their food and their cattle, the Israelites cried out to God and they said, God, we believe that you're a God and we want to be delivered. And so God, he came down to Gideon when Gideon is secretly beating wheat in a wine mill, trying to keep him away from the Midianites. And God appeared to him and he said, Midian, I want you to deliver my people from the Midianites. Gideon, he's kind of like not a very sure guy. He's like, I don't know. Are you even like the angel of the Lord? Are you even from God? And so God did a miracle in front of his eyes, and he took leavened bread and meat and set it aflame. And so Gideon was like, okay, I get it. You're actually the angel of the Lord. And so he was filled with confidence, and the Lord left. And God, the following night, asked him to pull down the altar of Baal that was in his region, his little town. And so once again, he's a scared guy. He's like, I don't know if I can do this, Lord. And so in the daylight, he doesn't do it. But at night, when no one can see him doing it, he pulls down the altar of Baal. God was pleased. And so he sends people from all the different regions of Israel coming to come help Gideon fight this battle of the Midianites. And so he musters up 32,000 people. But Gideon's like, 32,000 people? That's not enough. The Midianites have 100,000+ people. And so he's a little shaky. And so during one night, he's like, God, I have a fleece. It's a wool fleece. I'm going to set it outside. And if it's wet, if the dew is all in the fleece and the grass around it is dry, then I'll know that you'll actually deliver the Midianites into our hands. And so he goes to bed and he lays out the fleece. And in the morning he wakes up. And the fleece is just soaking wet. He can wring out all the fleece and it just fills up a bowl of water. It's just soaking wet. A clear sign, right? But Midian, he's still a little shaky. He's like, I don't know. And so he's like, God, please don't be angry with me. But this one more time, tonight, if I lay out my fleece, and my fleece is not wet when I wake up, and the grass around it is all dewy and wet, then I'll know that you'll deliver the Midianites into our hands. And so, goes to bed, and when he wakes up the next morning, it was so. The fleece was dry, and the ground was wet all around it. So Gideon knew that the Midianites would be delivered into his hands. And so they moved close to the Midianites. The Midianites had over 100,000 people, and they were, Gideon camped his people just at the base of a mountain, close to them. But when they got there, God said, Gideon, you have too many people. And Gideon's like, what? And so God's like, I cannot deliver the Midianites into your hand with this many people. And it's like, man, it's 32,000 to 100,000+. The odds aren't great. And so Midian's like, okay, Lord, and he just follows what he says. And so he tells Gideon, if there's any soldiers that want to go home because they're scared, let them go. So Gideon's like, okay. So he told all of his soldiers, if you're scared and you don't want to be here, go home. And 22,000 leave. 22,000 soldiers leave, leaving him with 10,000 soldiers left. And so he's looking at like 10,000 soldiers compared to 100,000+ soldiers. The odds are not very good, but he still believed in God, and he's like, okay, I believe that you'll deliver the Midianites into our hands. And the next day, the Lord is like, hey Gideon, you have too many people. I can't deliver the Midianites into your hands. And he's like, oh my goodness, so you're being serious? But he's like, I believe you, God. And so God's like, good, I'm going to take you down to a pool. And every soldier that laps out of the water like a dog, send him home. And every soldier that reaches down with two hands and drinks with both of his hands, send him home. But the soldier that keeps one hand on his sword and one hand to drink, he will stay. And so they went through all 10,000 people, and they were left with only 300 people. And Gideon's like, 300 people? Are you kidding me? The odds of winning this battle is like McMath beating Usain Bolt in a 100-yard race. It's not going to happen unless something crazy happens, unless a miracle happens. And so that night he goes to lay down, and God's like, Gideon, if you're scared and your hands are shaky, he's like, go down to the camp, take your servant, go down to the camp and listen to what's down there. And he's like, when you hear what the Midianites are saying, you'll be strengthened. So him and his servant went down to the camp. And when they got down there, they heard one of the Midianite soldiers talking about that they had this dream of this ball or barley came into this tent and knocked it all down, this little ball, this little bundle. And so Gideon, he was filled with confidence because he knew that was a sign from God that they were going to take down the Midianites. And so they go back to the tents, and he gives all 300 soldiers a torch, a jar, and a trumpet. And he's like, on my command, when I blow this, blow your trumpets, break these jars, and hold up your torches and stuff. And so that night they surround the camp. They split into 3 groups, one with 100, one with 100, and the other one with 100. And when the time was right, Gideon blew his trumpet, and all other people did the same. Blew the trumpets, and all of a sudden the encampment, the Midianites were filled with confusion. They had no idea what was going on. It was between their shifts, and so they started killing each other. They had no idea. 100,000 people, 100,000+ people just swinging swords at each other. And the Midianites were delivered into Gideon's hands. And if you notice, Gideon didn't have to do a thing. Gideon said, I will deliver the Midianites into your hands. Not you, I will. And so you see that God was all power in this situation, and that without having to raise a sword or use any muscle, Gideon was victorious over the Midianites. Or so to say, God was victorious over the Midianites.